Okay, let's get into Act 4. All of Act 4 is following action, so it's just plot that's moving towards the resolution. We need to get to the final scene, and we all know what's going to happen there. And Act 4 just helps us get there. There's plot that needs to happen for us to get there. So let's get into it. Um, Act 4, Scene 1 takes place at Friar Lawrence's cell. It starts off with Friar talking to Paris. Paris has gone to Friar Lawrence's cell to tell him that he's getting married to Juliet in a couple of days. And this is a shock to the friar. Um, he's like, what? Because he knows now that his plan has gone awry. Pretty soon after that, Juliet shows up. She and Paris have an exchange of words that you can imagine how that will go. Juliet is not a fan of Paris. Um, and then finally, Paris leaves, and Juliet talks to the friar about how to fix their situation. And of course, the friar comes up with a plan because the friar always comes up with a plan. His plans seem to get crazier and crazier because the situation gets worse and worse. This is his most crazy plan to date, but you'll see what happens there. So let's get into the text. And so we start scene 4, like I said, with Friar and Paris. The friar says to Paris, "On Thursday, sir, the time is very short." "Well, my father Capulet will have it so." I love that he's calling him his father already. He's not married yet. "And I am nothing slow to slack his haste. You say you do not know the lady's mind? Uneven is the course. I like it not." Meaning, you don't even know her? Why are you getting married to her? This is not a good idea. "Immoderately she weeps for Tybalt's death, and therefore have I little talk of love, for Venus smiles not in a house of tears. Now, sir, her father counts it dangerous that she do gives her sorrow so much sway, and in his wisdom hastes our marriage, to stop the inundation of her tears, which too much minded by herself alone, may be put from her by society." So he's kind of justifying why they're getting married so fast. It's because Capulet is trying to do this to help Juliet get over her sadness of Tybalt's death. Um, and if she doesn't get over her sadness quickly enough, it's going to make her look foolish because that's what people thought back then. We talked about that earlier. You can't mourn for too long. At least back then, you were not supposed to. Um, Now, do you see the reason of this haste? And he says to himself, this is an aside. Um, "I would I knew not why it should be slowed." I wish I did know why it should be slowed because he knows he can't do anything about it, right? Can't stop it. "Look, sir, here comes the lady towards my cell." So here comes Juliet. And there's a very icy exchange here between Paris and Juliet. Paris says, "Happily met, my lady and my wife." "That may be, sir, when I may be a wife." Like, you can call me your wife when I'm your wife, but I'm not your wife, so don't call me your wife. "That may be must be love on Thursday next." Well, when I may be your wife, well, what you're saying may be is going to happen on Thursday. Like, you're going to be my wife, so I might as well call you wife now. "What must be shall be." Yeah, what's going to happen is going to happen. We'll see what happens, buddy. And Fire Lawrence says, "Yeah, that's a certain text. Yeah, I know what she's talking about." Right. Um, "Come you to make confession to this father? Is that why you're here? Are you here to make confession?" "Well, to answer that, I should confess to you. Like, I'm not going to tell you why I'm here. That would be a confession. That would be me telling you my private thoughts. And so I'm not going to tell you my private thoughts." "Well, do not deny to him that you love me." You should tell him your private thoughts, and your private thoughts must be that you love me. So make sure you tell him that. "Well, I will confess to you that I love him." That's one confession I will make. I will tell you, Paris, that I love the friar, but that's the only one. That's the only confession I'm going to make in terms of loving people. "So will you? I am sure that you love me." Um, I'm sure that you're also going to tell him that you love me, right? "If I do so, it will be of more price being spoke behind your back than to your face." So she's not going to fight it because he's going to keep asking her to do this. So she says, look, if I do tell him that I love you, it'll be worth more if I tell him in secret than if I say it right here and now. So let me just say it to him if I'm going to say it to him. So she's basically not saying yes or no, but she's just trying to get out of talking about this anymore. Poor soul, thy face is much abused with tears. The tears have got small victory by that, for it was bad enough before their spite. Um, so he's like, man, your face is really, it looks much worse when now that you're crying. It's not very kind. Um, and she says, well, they're not making my face look much worse than it already looks. Like it's not a very pretty face anyway. And he says, thou wrongst it more than tears with that report. Like, hey, the tears are making you look are doing damage to your face, but what you just said about your face is doing more damage. Like, don't say that about your face. She says, that is no slander, sir, which is a truth. And what I spake to my face. Like, first of all, it's true. My face isn't that pretty. And second of all, I'm not saying this to you. I'm saying it to my face. I'm telling my face that it's ugly. I'm not telling you that my face is ugly. So it's none of your concern. You don't need to talk about this. Thy face is mine, and thou hast slandered it. I'm sorry, what? Yeah. So back in the day, when a man gets married to a woman, she's his property. And so he's basically saying, look, um, you may have said that to your face, but I own your face. And you just made fun of something that I own. So don't do that. Okay. Paris is turning out to be much more of a jerk than we knew, right? We haven't really gotten to know him. All we know about him is that he wants to marry Juliet. But we have this little bit of characterization here that is telling us a lot about Paris. So I think it's an important, it makes us hate him more, and it makes us want Juliet to not marry him more. Okay. It may be so, for it is not mine own. You might be right, that my face belongs to you, because the only thing I do know is that my face does not belong to me. That's uh, dramatic irony, because we know who her face belongs to. It belongs to Romeo, because she already married him, right? Are you at your leisure, Holy Father, now, or shall I come to you at evening mass? Like, can we talk? I don't want to talk to this jerk anymore. Friar Lawrence says, my leisure serves me, pensive daughter. Now, my lord, we must entreat time alone. Like, we need to talk by alone without you. And Paris says before he leaves, God's shield, I should disturb devotion. God help me if I should prevent you two from, if I should prevent Juliet, from, being devoted to God, like talking to a holy man and going to confession and all that. Juliet, on Thursday early I will rouse you. Till then, adieu, and keep this holy kiss. And he kisses her, and I can imagine that she kind of like, tries to dodge it, or just total game face, or something. But it's not going to be good either way. So he exits, and Juliet freaks out. Oh, shut the door, and when thou hast done so, come weep with me, past hope, past care, past help. There's nothing we can do. This is the worst situation ever. Oh, Juliet, I already know thy grief. It strains me past the compass of my wits. I hear thou must, and nothing may prorogue it, on Thursday next be married to this county. Tell me not, friar, thou hearest of this, unless thou tell me how I may prevent it. If in thy wisdom thou canst give no help, do thou but call my resolution wise, and with this knife I'll help it presently. Basically, tell me how you're going to help me, because if you don't, this knife is going to stab me and kill me right now. Okay. This is very similar to the scene in several ways that we saw just a couple scenes ago with Romeo. Romeo showed up at the friars, and he's begging for help. Well, he's at least saying it's hopeless. And he takes out a knife and he says, I'm going to kill myself because the situation is so bad. Juliet has now shown up at the friars and is doing exactly the same thing. Um, God joined my heart and Romeo's, thou our hands, and ere this hand by thee to Romeo sealed shall be the label to another deed, or my true heart with treacherous revolt turn to another, this shall slay them both. I am already married to Romeo, right? Um, and there's a deed that has labeled me to another. There's another, man that's supposed to marry me. So I am going to take this knife and kill myself, so it will get rid of both our marriages. Okay. Therefore, out of thy long experience time, give me some present counsel. Since you're an older man and you have a lot of experience, you tell me what to do. Or behold, twixt my extremes, me and this bloody knife shall play the umpire, arbitrating that which the commission of thy years and art could to no issue of true honor bring. Be not long to speak, I long to die, if what thou speakest speak not of remedy. Like, you better tell me what plan you have. Otherwise, this knife is going to, play the umpire is going to be game over, since you couldn't tell me, how to fix this situation. Okay. So before the friar tells Juliet his plan, he wants to make sure that she really is brave enough to go through with it. So he says, Hold, daughter, I do spy a kind of hope which craves as desperate an execution as that is desperate which we would prevent. It's kind of crazy, okay? It's really, you have to be desperate to want to do this, okay? It's as desperate as the situation we're in right now. If rather than married to county Paris, thou hast the strength of will to slay thyself, to kill yourself, then it is likely thou wilt undertake a thing like death to chide away this shame, that copest with death himself to escape from it, which means to escape from it. And if thou darest, I'll give you remedy. This is interesting. He says, if you have the strength to kill yourself, which you have shown that you do with that knife, then it's likely that you will undertake a thing like death to take away the shame of marrying Paris. Well, wait a second, I don't get it. A thing like death, okay? But in any case, he says, if thou darest, I'll give you remedy. And is she going to, why is this such a problem? Is she going to take this crazy plan? She says, instead of marrying Paris, she says, Oh, bid me leap rather than marry Paris from off the battlements of any tower. I would rather jump off a tower to my death than marry Paris. Or walk in thievish ways. I'd rather go into an alleyway with a bunch of thieves. Now, that may not seem that bad, but remember, women didn't walk alone back then in the day, and especially not in places where there were a bunch of thieves. Horrible things would happen to her if she did that. But she would rather do that than marry Paris. Or bid me lurk where serpents are. I'd rather hang out with snakes. This is getting more and more dramatic. Listen to this one. Chain me with roaring bears. So don't just put me in a cage with bears, but chain me to them. And not just bears, roaring bears. Like, I would do all of this than marry Paris. Or hide me nightly in a charnel house, where prostitutes are. You get the picture there. Or covered quite with dead men's rattling bones. I'd rather put rattling dead men, like basically go to a graveyard and dig up some bones and put it all over me. With reeky shanks of yellow chapless skulls, or bid me go into a new made grave, like a new dead body, and hide me with a dead man in his shroud. Things that to hear them told have made me tremble. I'd rather do things that used to make me tremble, and just hearing them would make me tremble. And I will do it without fear or doubt, to live an unstained wife to my sweet love. Uh, just so I won't have to marry Paris. I will do all of those things. That's how badly I want to not marry Paris. So am I brave enough to do whatever your plan is? Yeah, let's do it. Okay. So here's his plan. And hold on to your hats because it's a little crazy. Hold then. Go home, be merry, give consent to marry Paris. That's part one. Go home and be happy and tell them that you'll marry Paris. Wednesday's tomorrow. Tomorrow night, look that thou lie alone. Okay, so I was wrong when I said I think it's Wednesday and she's getting married tomorrow. She's getting married in 2 days. It's Tuesday, tomorrow's Wednesday. And then tomorrow night, look that thou lie alone. Let not the nurse lie with thee in thy chamber. And then he holds out a vial. We have a potion. Okay. Take thou this vial, being then in bed, and this distilling liquor, drink it off. So take this potion, which apparently is already prepared, which is kind of weird. Like, why do you have this potion lying around? However, this makes the earlier soliloquy that he gave make sense, right? He's got an herb garden, and apparently this guy like just spends his free time making crazy potions and just keeps them around in case he needs them. Okay, crazy person. Then presently, so drink off this potion. When presently through all thy veins shall run a cold and drowsy humor, for no pulse shall keep this native progress, his native progress, but surcease. When you drink this off, you're going to feel drowsy. You're going to fall asleep, and your pulse shall cease. Now, it sounds like this means she's going to die. However, no warmth, no breath shall testify thou livest. So your skin's going to be totally cold and you're going to have no breath. So it's going to look like you're dead. The roses in thy cheeks and lips shall fade to pallor the ashes. Thy eyes' windows fall like death when he shuts up the day of life. So no red in your cheeks. You're going to be completely pale. It's going to look like you're dead. Each part deprived of supple government shall stiff and stark and cold appear like death. And in this borrowed likeness of shrunk death, thou shalt continue 42 hours, and then awake as from a pleasant sleep. So he's got a potion that is going to make her, in all respects, appear completely dead. It's going to slow down her heart rate so much that it's going to look like she's dead. However, somehow she's going to remain alive. And in 2 days' time, 42 hours, 42 hours, so not quite 2 days, she's going to awaken. Now, this is the olden days, and they didn't have a lot, like, yeah, they used herbs and, for medicinal purposes, but they didn't know a lot about, potions and science and all that. Most of that was quackery, was, fake. But you're telling me this friar whose main job, is a priest and who has a hobby of like growing plants and making potions is going to give this young girl a potion that's going to bring her within that amount of being dead. And if you put too much of one or the other, element in the potion, it'll probably kill her. Yeah, this sounds like a great plan. Let's do it. Now, when the bridegroom in the morning comes to rouse thee from thy bed, there art thou dead. It's going to look like you're dead when somebody comes to get you. Then, as the matter of our country is, in thy best robes, uncovered on the bier, thou shalt be borne to that same ancient vault where all the kindred of Capulets lie. So the good news is they're not going to bury you underground yet. The tradition is that they put you in a vault where all the other bodies are, there, and they're going to display your body for a couple days. Okay? In the meantime, against thou shalt awake, before you will awake, shall Romeo by my letters know our drift, and hither shall he come, and he and I will watch thy waking. So I will send him a letter, tell him to show up at your grave, at your, not your gravesite, but the vault, and he and I will be there to watch you awake. And that very night shall Romeo bear thee hence to Mantua, and this shall free thee from this present shame. If no inconstant toy nor womanish fear abate thy valor in acting it. Now you might be thinking, well, this is silly. Why go through all of this when she could just run away to, Mantua right now and be with Romeo? Because Capulet will know she's alive and probably hunt her down, right? Whereas here they'll think she's dead and that'll be the end of it, right? And possibly they'll be so happy that she's alive when they see her again that she'll be fine with them being married. I mean, okay, it's a plan. It's an insane plan. But here's his plan, and what do you think Juliet says to it? Give me. Oh, tell me not to fear. Like, let's do this right now. I'm ready. Done. Okay. Hold, get you gone. Be strong and prosper. And by the way, Gene Roddenberry, who made Star Trek, was a huge Shakespeare fan and put Shakespeare in a lot of his, stuff. So be strong and prosper. Yeah, that's where he gets live long and prosper. He just changed it a little bit, but In any case, in this resolve, I'll send a friar with speed to Mantua with my letters to the Lord. I'll send a letter to Romeo to let him know the crazy plan. Love, give me strength. Juliet says, "Love, give me strength, and strength shall help afford. Farewell, dear father." And that's it for scene one. Certainly, we learn a lot about Paris. Don't forget about that. It really makes us hate him a lot, right? Like before, he was just seemed like some stuffy older guy that she wouldn't be paired well with. But now we know he's an absolute jerk. Like he sees her as merchandise, as property. That's the only reason he wants her is because she's the best qualified person to marry. She's the most beautiful. She has the most power. He would be connected to the Capulet family. So he doesn't care about her at all, like for a second, right? And we talked about this a little bit, but this whole scene is a mirror. We've seen a lot of this. We see, the whole play is a mirror. We've got two sides that are pretty identical. We've got Capulets and Montagues. They both have high stature. The leaders both have one child who loves the other one. We have scenes where one looks like the other. Romeo shows up at the friars, and then Juliet shows up at the friars. We have a scene where the nurse comes home to meet Juliet with some bad news, but it's really good news. And then we have another scene where the nurse goes back to Juliet and sees her with bad news, but this time it's really bad news. So, Shakespeare's kind of having fun with this. There's a lot of scenes where they appear to be very similar. And then following action, of course, the plot is moving quickly towards the resolution that we already know is coming. So this creates more and more and more suspense because we want to know how all this happens. And so now we pretty much have the setup. Now we just need to kind of go through the execution of it. We need to, see her go home, make up with her parents, go to bed, drink the potion. They need to find her body and then send her to the vault. Once all that happens, then, assuming that all that happens, then we get to Act 5. So stay tuned.